All right, so for this video, we're going to talk about pressure imbalance and what causes that. So as you see here, we've tripped it on our machine here, and I'm going to walk through the steps of what are the most common causes of this. And the first of which we're going to go over will be our spray guns. All right, so for this, we're going to go through the P2 gun on how to clean your gun screen and to clean your mixing chamber, because a lot of times with a pressure imbalance issue, those are almost the top problems that can happen. And so we're going to go through how to clean those and how to look for those. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check our ISO screen, because the majority of the time the ISO side is definitely the culprit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So we'll get it removed, and you can do this with the gun still installed to the line set and all that. We're going to get it removed here, and we're going to be checking for any kind of crystal buildup, any kind of buildup on that screen. So once you have it here, you can remove the screen itself, clean it off with some paint thinner, acetone, make sure it's clean, and you can reinstall it on here. It's also important to note that there is a check ball and a spring inside of here. And those will need to go back in as well before you reinstall that screen housing. So it starts with the spring. You get that into place first, and then you'll drop the check ball into place, and then you'll screw in the screen screw with the cleaned screen on it. Then once we get that in, we'll make sure we have that nice and tight. And then we'll be checking the mix chamber next, which I'll show you how we do that. So we'll go ahead and get this going. And it doesn't need to be super tight. It'll almost feel like it just bottoms out. And then once it does, just remove that and you're good to go. So to access our mixing chamber, what we're going to do is we're going to move our side blocks, both on the ISO and resin side. You'll be using this tool that's actually included in your gun box. So once we have them removed here on that ISO side, we can take this block, put it to the side, and we'll do the same on the resin side as well. Now, the screen housing and everything is identical on the ISO and resin side. If you're going to be checking both these screens at the same time, I would recommend removing one, cleaning it and reinstalling it, then removing the second, cleaning it and reinstalling it, just so you remove the possibility of a mix-up on that. Once we have these off, we'll go ahead and remove the tip and the insert. So that you'll need a wrench for. Once you get it loose, it's easy enough to remove. And then the last couple things we'll need to remove are these gun head screws. There'll be two of them here. And the other size wrench that was included is for that. So we'll go ahead and slot those in. We'll loosen these up, get them removed. And then after we do this, the whole gun head will slide off, and that will get us to that mixing chamber. So now that we have those out, the whole gun head will just slide right off. And then this is your mixing chamber. You can clean it while it's installed where it is. You can even remove it, which is what I actually like to do. So I'll remove it, and if it's not easy to come off, you can use a wrench here to kind of get it loose, but make sure you use the wrench not near those side ports so you don't risk scratching or damaging that. So once that's loose, you can remove it, and then we'll talk about cleaning this mixing chamber. This one is a tricky piece to clean because you can't really see the inside of it very well. So typically what we'll do is we'll use our pen vise here, and we'll drill it out with our drill bits. We'll do the one in the tip, we'll do one in the sides as well. We'll make sure it's clean. A lot of times if it's clean, a good way to tell is you can actually see through those two small side ports if you hold it up to some light. It doesn't necessarily always mean it's clean if that's the case, because there still could be some debris in there that we're not able to see. And a good way to make sure it's a good clean chamber is actually to use some NMP and a cooker. You'll set this cooker to no more than 200 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll let this soak for about 30 minutes or so, and it softens up any stuff you have in there, any ISO, any material that you might have in your chamber will soften up and make it a lot easier to clean. So a lot of times I'll do that, drill it, and then use compressed air in the front and that will blow all the debris out of this chamber. And usually, if you do all those things, it's almost a guarantee that this mix chamber is clean and clear. Because I've seen that a lot of times. I've cleaned screens, cleaned the mixing chamber, and still having off pressure. And I eventually had to go to a more deeper clean of that chamber, and it remedied the issue. So a lot of times it's hard to tell if this is actually clean or not, but sometimes this is what it could be, because it could be your issue. So then we'll reinstall after we have it nice and clean. We'll get it back into place here. And once we have it installed, we'll use the wrench to make sure it's tight. We'll get it going there. Make sure that's good and tight there. And then we'll reinstall the gun head. And then before we do, we want to make sure you have your O-rings here are still installed, and if they did fall out, make sure they're reinstalled properly. We'll put the gun head back in. We'll do the small screws first. We'll get their tool here. We'll reinstall. And then once we get those going, we'll get the second one in place. And then we'll reinstall the insert here, and we'll get that in place. We'll put the cap back on. We'll get that hand tight, and then we'll finish tightening it up with the wrench here. Make sure that that's good and tight. And then finally we'll reinstall our side blocks. So we'll put those in place. And we'll use our larger tool for that. Get those started. And then we'll start the other one, and then we'll finish tightening that first one after we get this one starting to get tight. We'll finish tightening that. Same with that side, and then we'll install our ISO block. And then now that we have all that installed, we are good to go.